thought after 10,000 years that we would have dire wolves back in the world before the House settlement case in college football, before we had any regulations of college athletics whatsoever, that we would have an extinct animal that would be back, the first animal of all animals that ever existed would be back before you would have a settlement in the House judgment case. Judge Claudia Wilkin is still currently presiding over the House settlement case. Blake, what in the Rudy Poo is the House settlement case? Well, it is where the NCAA and most of all of college athletics got sued because they did not allow players from the past to get paid from TV revenue money. Well, that case is going to be settled at some point. Everybody pretty much knows and feels that that is going to be settled. But there's one thing that I want to mention right off the top. I've heard a lot of this today, and I want to say this. I absolutely love Livy Dunn. Love her to death. I love that her and Paul Skeens were on the cover of GQ magazine, looking all dapper and dandy. I love it. The branding of part of LSU is massive of what Livy Dunn and Paul Skeens have done on being on the cover of GQ. What I don't agree with from her or anybody else is that there has been a constant how do I want to say this? There has been a constant thought that things should be created equally when it comes to TV revenue money. For an example, I've been hearing, and I tweeted about this, but I've been hearing multiple and seeing multiple of you on social media saying to me, well, Blake, we need even and fair. Well, it was never and has never been even and fair for football. So now that men's athletics is about to get 90% of this payback money and about 90% of the money of TV revenue that is garnered from wherever your team plays on it, whether it be CBS, ESPN, wherever television network that they're on. Well, I don't mean this in the wrong way, but football has carried you. Men's basketball has carried you for well over 100 years. Well over. Because we have an extinct animal that is back to life before the House settlement case, before any regulations have been maintained in college athletics. Here is the truth. If football garners the money and our government is making the NCAA or any part of college athletics to pay the players, fine, whatever. It is what it is. Probably should have been doing it long before now. But the simple fact that we think that equality and fairness is that everybody gets paid the same is not how this works. So basically what I should say is, hey, guys, you know what? We're all human beings. I want you to give me part of the money that you work for. How about that? How about this? Everybody that's in media, some make millions of dollars, some don't make any money at all, and some are in debt trying to build a media business. You know what? I'm entitled to everyone's money. That's what you're saying, even if you don't participate in it. Now, Livy Dunn did go in front of the court today, in front of Judge Claudia Wilkin, and says that she claimed that her NIL earnings were bigger than her TV earnings. Well, of course it will be. Of course it will be. You're the biggest social media darling when it comes out there. Again, love Livy Dunn with everything that I own. I love everything in the brand that she brings to LSU. But she also stated that she thinks that her worth is bigger than the TV revenue money that she would be bringing in at LSU. No, I don't think that it is. Now, it may be, and you might have to renegotiate that. But with all due respect, you don't even generate positive revenue from gymnastics, much less football being the one that pretty much pays for everything that you do anyway. Nevertheless, we are live. We will, speaking of LSU, we will break down the Oklahoma series that was. LSU does get the sweep. We'll talk about that. They do come in third in the new college baseball polls. I might mention that. I don't think it really matters. Even when you were at one, I didn't think it matters, but we'll talk about that as well. But we'll break down the weekend. Spring football details. Thought LSU wasn't having a scrimmage. I mean, it seems like to me, per their announcement, that they're pretty much having a scrimmage, so we'll talk about that as well. Some things that we want to see. We have time. We'll get to that basketball, men's and women's basketball transfer portal. Today, we did a segment with Glenn West over 247 Sports. You can go over to YouTube and check that out. Did about a 40-minute segment with Glenn. Talked a lot about basketball, what he thought about the upcoming season, what he thought about the transfers that LSU and Matt McMahon have gotten. And we did talk about some football. So if you want more detail, we'll try to get to that at the end. I do have to be out of here a little bit early. We are live a little bit earlier than normal because I did not want to be live during the national championship game. I don't think that's fair to anybody. I'm sure you want to watch it. I want to watch it. So we're live a little bit early, but we got to get out of here because we got Rufino and Joe at 6 p.m. The only thing I would say to this, to end up this house case before we get rolling here and talking some LSU, Judge Claudia Wilkins said that she thinks that there should be roster limits. See, here's the problem that I have. The problem that I have with the house settlement case is that we're trying to make decisions for all different sports as they're one. Now, Judge Wilkins came out today and said that she thinks that all of these cases that have been brought against the NCAA should be individually gone through. And I agree with her. It should be individually. But apparently they can't do that. Every single sport is different. And we're trying to treat every sport in college athletics like they're the same. They're never the same. They've never been the same. They don't generate the same amount of revenue. Most sports in college athletics do not generate revenue. There's more sports that don't generate revenue and that are in the deficit than sports that are in the green. Football has funneled every single dollar that these non-generating sports have garnered for the most part. Now, Livy Dunn and some of these others that get NIL, they're not giving their money back to the gymnastics team to be able to go to these tournaments. I quite honestly just don't understand why we continue to label these individual sports as a whole entity. Guys, football is going to be different than basketball. Basketball is going to be different than baseball. Baseball is going to be different than softball. Softball is going to be different than gymnastics. To lump them all together into one, it's never going to work. It's going to – look, I do think college athletics, for what it's worth, I don't think any of it's dying. I don't think any of it will ever die because of the amount of money that is being generated. But here's what I do know. When it's all said and done and when it's finally come to pass, I think that Title IX does, for what it's worth, and all of the great things that Title IX does. I don't think that you can label football and everything that they do for Title IX. It's never been fair for the men and women that are a part of football to have to keep everybody else afloat. I love every sport. Every single sport that LSU plays, I love it. I love watching softball. I love watching gymnastics. I love watching baseball. I love watching all of these non-generating sports. But the truth, I'm not going to tell football that they can't take the money that they have earned and that they got to give it to everybody else. That's not fair to them. It's never been fair. And a lot of you have disagreed with me on that, but we got to break these sports down individually. I do, for what it's worth, think that all sports need a commissioner, and you go from there for your own sports guidelining needs. Track does not have the same should not have the same guidelines as football. It shouldn't. But it is what it is. Nevertheless, let's get to it. Gerald Rhodes says, yes, sir. Good to have you in here. Where are you listening to from tonight, guys, by the way? Chase says on YouTube, what's good, Blake? From the 318, 3-1 Great Alexandria. I keep telling y'all this. The 318 on the audio podcast side, always representing. Good to see you in here in the live show. Good to see you in here, Chase. Lance says, what's up, Big Blake? Not much. Just, chilling and relaxing, all cool, shooting some b-ball outside the school. And today, a couple of guys, they were up to no good, started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got one little fight. My mom got scared. She said, you moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel Air. That's about all. Pi Moyo on YouTube says, oh, listen, I am not trying to be disrespectful to Livy or any other athlete that is out there. I do not believe, again, it is of my humble opinion. This will not make me any friends. It's just of my humble opinion that when you get to a situation where you're asking football to keep alive these other sports. I don't think it's fair to football. Why? We don't do that in any other part of society. No other part of society. So I don't know why we do it here. DA says, Blake, if I saw you in public, I probably wouldn't recognize you without headphones. Well, here's my big old ears. I don't need these until we get to the until the segments anyway, because I got to hear, producers. But DA says, Blake, if I saw you in public, yeah. So, here's my big old ears. Hopefully I'm not as ugly as maybe you thought that I was. Joe Rhodes says Gulf Shores, Alabama. Okay. The 512, I think. Maybe not the 5-1. That might be Mobile. But Gulf Shores is in the building. Yeah, we won't be here next week. We will not be here next week. We'll do some other things. We'll have some videos that will be out there, but we will not be here next week. Randy Jones says, hello. Good to have you in here, Randy. He also says, Big Blake getting some shots up. Yeah, I mean, I was just using the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Speaking of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which made me remind of this. Guess who is back? Mike Jones. Who? If I were a betting man, and if you've been watching this show long enough, Mike Jones was a very frequent guest on AYS Sports. I would assume that if Mike Jones were to tell the public and the LSU fan base about him coming back, I think he's very fired up. I think he would say that he's been working with Kevin Peoples at Edge. And I think that this locker room, for what it's worth, needs Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones. Mike Jones has always been a leader amongst men. It's why we had partnered with Mike when NIL first became a thing. This team needs Mike Jones. Last time that you went to the SEC championship game, Mike Jones, who was on your roster. We don't talk about leadership enough. There's a reason Mike Jones is back. I'll leave it there. But nevertheless. The 251 is Gulf Shores. Okay, we'll be over there in that general area next week during spring break. So if you see us, say hello. Chase says, Blake. He means Blake. Blake speaking straight facts, dude, is a real one. Yeah, look, the speaking facts has not really made me friends of late, if you guys haven't noticed. A lot of people are mad at you, boy. They're pretty upset because they're like, you're too negative. You glaze other national football teams. Guys, here's the truth. Here's the outright truth. The outright truth that we're going to speak facts here, in which we try to do, is people want me to label LSU and compare them to Ohio State from a football perspective. Come on. I mean, I'm going to try to come out here and be as real as I can. Doesn't make me a lot of friends, but I don't know how else to be. Would you rather me be a phony or a fake? Jackie Harris, who is also now a part. Jackie, I apologize if I'm just noticing this. But Jackie is a part of us on AYSSnetwork.com, the forum. We put some portal notes. We will. You have my word. We will be doing some other things when it comes to the forum. We're going to be talking to some recruits here in the near future. You have my word. But Jackie with a $2 super chat says, portal talk, I need safeties. We'll get to that in football in just a moment. We'll get to that. A couple more, and then we got to get rolling. Randy Jones says, yeah, you're right. Blake always keeps it 100. We try to. That is the goal here. People don't like it, but that is the truth. All right. Let's get moving here. Everybody, now I need to put these back on. I hope that the producers haven't been screaming for me. But nevertheless. All right, let's get moving here. Everybody do us a favor. By hitting the like and share to all those groups, if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages, you're watching us, listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell, and wherever you listen to podcasts, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe. Guys, all shows are brought to you by our good friends over at MyBookie and March Madness. And its final game is tonight. From the tip-off that starts at 7:50 p.m., and really just any night for my bookie promises high-stake matchups with wild finishes in any sport. MyBookie's Bet and Get is back to sweeten the deal for you. Place a cash bet on March Madness tonight. So you got some time between Florida and Houston to make that final bet. Listen up. Use this promo code MM50, not 55, MM50, and you'll boost your bankroll with a deposit bonus designed to help you make most of your money. If you don't want the bonus, that's okay too. Just make sure that you let them know that Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by. Let's do this. I got to get to a quick break. Everybody do us a favor, hit the like and share. When we come back, we got lots to discuss. LSU baseball, football, and basketball, all making moves. Stay with us. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Falls and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Falls has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. All right. Last thing. It looks like this settlement case is not going good for college athletics. Ross Dellinger I have no idea where he is anymore, but he says if the NCAA and conferences felt good about the first 5 hours of the hearing, things have now changed. Judge Wilkins sees enough objections and issues with House that she suggested splitting all three cases, House, Hubbard, and Carter, to be settled individually. Interesting. It probably is for the best. It might be for the best. I don't know what's going to happen for college athletics, but no, again, this is what I'd say. Sports are not created equally. No sports are created equally. Never have been, never will be. Football and gymnastics should not go by the same rules and regulations. She also said that they need a collective bargaining agreement, but none of these Rudy Poos want to do that. But what do I know? All right, let's get moving here. So, LSU baseball swept Oklahoma this weekend in what feels like, at least to me, dramatic fashion. Blake, what do you mean? We were pretty much in control the entire time. You were. But the dramatic fashion came for you on Thursday night, and we talked about this in the postgame, but it came in the form of the Golden Spikes Player of the Week in Cade Anderson, who had through 9 innings pitched, he only gave 5 hits, 2 walks, and 14 strikeouts and 130-plus pitches. Guys, this weekend we saw something that we had not seen since the BB Core era, and that being that LSU starting pitching had not allowed an earned run, and bullpen had not allowed an earned run in a 3-game stretch since 2013, where that team did it twice in that same season. Guys, I do think for what it's worth this weekend, there's been a lot made of LSU baseball this year. And a lot of the things that have been made of LSU baseball was, myself included, was, man, I feel like they're doing some really good things to the plate. But outside of the Friday night or Thursday night start that you get from Cade Anderson, And from some of these bullpen arms like Casey Evans, and Zach Cowan, things have been a little bit rocky. This weekend, you dominated. And I understand the weather. I understand the wind blowing in. I understand everything that went on in the state of Oklahoma this weekend as we all watched the 3 games. But, guys, if I would have told you a week ago today that you would go into Norman, Oklahoma against a top 10 opponent and you would not allow an earned run based off of some of the things that you had seen in the past, you would call me a blithering fool. You would say, well, Blake, I could potentially see that happening on Friday night with Cade Anderson responding after a Mississippi State game and you bringing in Zach Cowan. But Zach Cowan didn't even come back. And Jay Johnson spoke about this today. It's like, look, we had Zach ready to go into this in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. And Jay even elaborated on that Thursday night that he told Cade Anderson, if you allow a base runner, I'm coming to get you. Well, Cade Anderson did not allow a base runner. And what might have been one of the best overall performances that we have seen in quite some time. Because I don't remember an LSU guy over 100 pitches, not named Paul, I probably should say not named Paul Skeens, not a generational dude that went out there and performed the way that he did. It was exceptional. Everything that Cade Anderson did was absolutely fundamentally exceptional and set you up to go on the road after the last time that you went on the road in the SEC and you lost 2 or 3 to the number 1 team in the country, in my humble opinion. Why Arkansas is number 1, I don't know. You can make the argument. But an outright dominating performance from you on the mound. And it continued on Saturday with Anthony Ianson, who, guys, quite frankly, let's call it what it is. And back-to-back SEC starts, has absolutely performed at a level that we had not seen him perform at. You know, coming in before last week versus Mississippi State, and he absolutely delivered and outpitched Pico Khan, who is the best arm, in my humble opinion, in the SEC. Anthony Ianson outdueled him. And then on Thursday night, probably, at least on most draft boards, and Kyson Weatherspoon, Cade Anderson outperformed him. But in reference to Anthony Ianson, you've had back-to-back, not just guys, not good SEC performances. You can make the God's honest determination that you have seen dominant performances by Anthony Ianson, not allowing an earned run. Before that, he had an ERA against 4 P4 teams that was above 8. And we have talked about that. But he gets through another start in what was a dominating performance. You know, Anthony Ianson going through the 5th and then even going into the 6th inning where he throws 5 2/3 innings. And then you bring in Casey Evans, who closes the door for you, shuts the door for you. Absolutely electric. And Jay had brought this up today. He's like, look, Casey Evans and Anthony Ianson feel like that duo, I just could not justify to myself breaking up that duo, which I don't mind. I don't mind at all. But the fact that you went through 2 games, 2, on the road in the SEC against guys, Oklahoma is not a bad baseball team. They're a really good baseball team. You went through 3 pitchers in 2 games. Absolutely fantastic. And then Chase Shores on Sunday. Guys, I mean, it wasn't perfect. You know, I think that things were not perfect on Sunday in a cold weather environment, but Chase Shores still delivered for you too, along with Zach Cowan. Guys, in 27 innings pitched this weekend, the God's honest truth is that you only allowed just over 10 hits in the entire weekend. You allowed no earned runs. Your defense played behind you. And arguably the biggest thing that I would point out coming out of this weekend is that Oklahoma did not have 1 stolen base on you. The reason that is very significant is that Oklahoma leads the SEC in stolen base attempts and in stolen bases. and you shut them down. You dominated them. Guys, when I look at LSU baseball and I look at what we've seen the last 2 weekends, you could definitely make the argument, well, Blake, you got to go up against Tennessee. You got to go up against Arkansas. You know, what is Texas A&M after beating number 1 Tennessee this past weekend? There are a lot of tough teams that you have to play. But, guys, if we're calling it like it is, I feel very good where LSU sits, more than good. I feel very confident of where LSU sits right now when I look at the forearms between Cade Anderson, Zach Cowan, Anthony Ianson, and Kason Evans. Now, you really would hope that somebody else could emerge here because that four, and even if Chase Shores is going to, after post getting hit in the head with a baseball, which God bless him for toughing it out and doing what he needed to do, guys, you could be one of the best teams, and you are one of the best teams in the country. I feel as if after the Texas series loss, that things started to become a little bit more serious for you. Like, I feel as if that you responded in the sense of that we're not going to allow what happened last year to happen again. And I see that from the mound. And look, you got a tough opponent this weekend in Auburn. A very difficult opponent in Auburn. But, guys, it's not just what you did on the mound that was so dominant for me and the things that stood out. I think of Bear Jones this weekend at the plate. Guys, on Friday, when Bear Jones takes a ball that's pitched on the outside half, or was it Thursday? No, it was Thursday. He takes a pitch that's on the lower outside part of the plate, and he sits back on it, and he shoots the ball the other way for an RBI. The Bear Jones that I know would never. He would try to yank it, roll over to the shortstop or the third baseman, and you'd be out of the inning. I think of Derek Curiel breaking a record of being on base more in consecutive games. He broke an LSU record for a freshman. Absolutely ridiculous. I think of Chris Stanfield, your 9-hole hitter, coming up clutch in multiple situations. I think of a Luis Hernandez, who we mentioned earlier. Oklahoma did not have a stolen base on you all weekend. Guys, it was my biggest concern going into the weekend. It's like, look, man, Luis, I don't know if he has the best. I think he's got a good arm. I don't think he's the quickest getting the ball out. And guys, you did not allow them to run on you at all. At all. But then Luis Hernandez is heating up at the plate. Heating up at the plate. Guys, what was it? 4 doubles this weekend? Danny Dickinson continues to stay hot. He's the one on, what was it, Saturday night or Friday night or Thursday night, whatever it was. No, it was game 2. It was Friday night. Danny Dickinson was the one that started the rally that blew the game wide open. Blew the game wide open on Friday night, leading off the 9th with a home run. I think of the revolving door in the rotation of what you're doing with Jake Brown, what you're doing with Pearson, what you're doing with Fry. You know, like, guys, regardless of what you think or the position, the rotation is Jay has been putting Pearson at DH or in right field, Jake Brown at DH, depending on how things go. And if Fry's in the starting lineup and a righty comes in, he's been bringing in Jake Brown in that DH role. Josh Pearson, the super senior, is like, listen, I do not want to be left out of this lineup. I don't. And I'm not going to be. And so he has a game where when he comes in, he gets his chance again. Excuse me, guys. I'm still getting over this sinus infection. That he has a 2-home run game against a very good pitching staff and says, I'm not sitting the bench. Because everywhere that you turn around, it feels as if that you're just a very deep team. That everywhere that you look, this team has talent. It's your best start since 2013. I don't want to say that it's not that you have not faced a high level of opponent. I mean, you've been on the road twice in both ranked matchups that you have. You beat Kansas State, who leads the Big 12 right now. Kansas State is like leading the Big 12 right now. You beat them. It's not as if that you have been bad because you're 30-3. And we had a conversation literally on Wednesday when we were with our good friends over at Service Hawk, and we had it on the live show. That you're already becoming dangerously close to, hey, man, look, there's still a long way to go. But, man, the chances of you missing the postseason based off of the talent that you have, you're pretty much there. Can't sleep on Auburn. Guys, I watched every game, Auburn and Alabama this weekend. Auburn's a good club. It's a good club. Man, I think this team could make a run. I think that you are one of the best 5 teams. I could make the argument that you are the best team in the country, but Texas does exist. And you did lose that one. But I'll say this, as we go around the SEC, A&M finally kind of figured it out, didn't they? Oh, Blake, it was only one day of baseball. I don't care. You beat Tennessee at Tennessee. No, they're going to be a good opponent. They could turn it around just the way like you did a season ago. Tennessee, you're like, oh, man, nobody can touch Tennessee. Man, it was funny to see how that weekend transpired. Jay's got a good squad, but this weekend, for what it's worth, I was impressed by a lot of things that you did. Since 2013, as I mentioned, you've never had a 3-game stretch where you gave up 0 earned runs. The 2013 team did that twice. That is insane. During a BB Core era, I might add. Doing it now is even more insane. So, through 4 weekends, you've swept 3 of them. Guys, if I would have told you in the beginning of the season that LSU in the first 4 weekends would sweep 3 of them, and I didn't tell you if you lost the series or got swept in the series, if all I told you was that LSU would sweep 3 of the first 4 series that they had, you'd be like, all right, well, of course, we probably swept Missouri. We swept Oklahoma? Well, did we – what happened with Mississippi State? We have not had success versus Mississippi State like that. We've actually lost series. We lost a series to Mississippi State when we won a national title. We lost it last year. What? We beat Pico Khan? Well, the answer would be, well, yes. Yes. I just think overall, man, it's been utterly fantastic at every single turn that you've done. Now, you got a long way to go. There are some things that I still think that you need to work on and some things that you need to do. But, man, I feel very confident about this team. You go to Nichols this weekend. Here's something I want to bring up. Here's kind of the last note that I want to bring up on baseball, because we talked a lot about it during the post games. Here's the last thing that I'd say, because we got a long week. You just went on the road. You're going on the road again. If I'm not mistaken, guys, correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't have it in front of me. You go on the road to Nichols on Tuesday. Then you go back to Auburn again. How many times? Guys, I feel like since I've been doing this, LSU and Auburn have never played at home. Like we've never – like I know that we have, but it just feels like we're always going to Auburn. Guys, 3 games versus Oklahoma, an away game during the midweek, and an away series this weekend. I told you last week, and I'll say this again. If you come out of that, and I was even generous, I said, listen, go 5-2. Well, you're 2 wins away from doing that. Now, you don't want to lose a series to Auburn, and you got to go in there and win it. But, guys, when you've been for that amount of stretch for you to be on the road with a team that had not been built together and you have a lot of different pieces and you're doing what you're doing, is amazing. You know, based off of some of the things that I've seen from people, you would think that LSU's not 30-3. Right? You would have thought that LSU had been losing games based off of some of the things that I've seen that some of you post on social media. Guys, they're 30-3. Their leadoff hitter, and Derek Curiel, has been on base in all 33 of those games. Bear Jones is taking a pitch on the outside half the opposite way to give your team leads. That did not happen a year ago. I do feel like, based off of the production now that you're in season, feels like you're playing some of your best baseball that I've seen in quite some time. And lastly, sports, especially baseball, it's a very funny sport. You know, you never want to talk about a tragedy, and you never want to have to go through a tragedy to spark something. But I'll even throw this in there. I saw 5 pitchers this weekend, whether it be Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, Kason Evans, Zach Cowan, Chase Shores. I saw a team that went out there and battled more than I had seen them ever battle for a guy who's going through something very emotional. That being Nate Yeskie. In case you missed it or didn't hear, unfortunately and sadly, and we're praying for the Yeskie family, Nate Yeskie lost his father this past week. Cade Anderson, I remember Nate Yeskie talking about in the beginning of the season, like, hey, who's taking the biggest jump? He goes, I've spent more time with Cade Anderson than anybody on this team. I think Cade Anderson had a connection and is growing a connection with Nate Yeskie. And I'll ask you this. A team that, by the way, obliterated Alabama pitching. A team that obliterated in moments Mississippi State pitching. LSU was a team that went in there and locked them down. Well, that's something. It might pump the brakes on the Nate Yeskie hate too. Guys, did we think he really, at least for a week, at least until you go to Auburn? I have this marked down. I don't even know if I should bring it up. I will say this. I know a lot of people were nervous about the Cade Anderson pitch count. I think it's so overrated. Dude's last pitch was 96 miles an hour. Crazy. Chan says, Coach Johnson said the team didn't know about Nate Yeskie's dad Thursday night. I don't know if I believe that, Chance. I don't know if I believe that. Guys, you can't keep stuff like that away from a team. I don't know if I believe. I love Jay. I call BS. All right. Let's get to some of these comments. Caleb on YouTube says, hope we can get some of the other bullpen guys to show improvement against Nichols. Yeah. Like, look, I hope, look, I would run Jacob Myers' ass out there. You hope that William Schmidt look, you got talent in the bullpen. Bro, it's been back-to-back weeks that Jacob Myers is coming and throwing over 100. But it doesn't matter if you're throwing 100. If you're going to keep throwing, I was going to say keep throwing balls, but if you can't find the strike zone, it's not going to matter. Cole Adams says, man, watching Jay's press conference, he takes you behind the scenes while building his players up, without a doubt. Brandon, what time does the Luis Hernandez? Oh, it 5:30. It already dropped. So we posted this on social media. Jay went off about Luis Hernandez. Guys, I don't think Jay's right. We've had this conversation about Luis Hernandez. I've told you, bro, it's a massive upgrade overall from what you've had. Dude, the dude had 4 doubles this weekend. Bruh. Like, come on now. Come on. Jay even brought up, and go listen to his comment. It's already on our social medias. He brought up, like, hey, man, normally older guys won't do this. He's like taking Cade Aaron underneath his wing, which you massively need. Chris Lomax, I see your tweet. Or see your thing. David says, it reminded me of Brett Laxton in 93 against Wichita State in the national championship. Complete game shutouts. Insane. Absolutely insane. Corey says, hey, Blake, you're pretty fuzzy on my end. Not sure about everyone else. Are we fuzzy on y'all's end? Hopefully we're not fuzzy. Are we fuzzy on y'all's end? I hope not. Before we get to a break here, Caleb says yes on the road versus Nichols because they postponed the one in the box. Yeah, right. Look, it would be, it's going to, like, I don't care what anybody says. Now, hear me out. I said this about Texas football last night on Rufino and Joe show. The same thing goes for any sport. Guys, like, for example, Texas will be on the road for football for an entire month. They'll go to Dallas. They'll go, like, I think they have one home game against Vanderbilt, but 1 out of 5 games in, like, the middle of the season, they're on the road. I bring that up to bring this up. It doesn't matter what sport you're in. You got 3 games on the road versus Oklahoma. You have a game versus Nichols where you're on the road, and then you'll have 3 other games versus Auburn. So 7 straight games where you're on the road. Let's say you go 6-1, 6-2, or 6-1 or 5-2. Even if you lost the series to Auburn, I still think that's a very interesting thing to do. Now, if you go 6-1 in that stretch, if you go undefeated in that stretch, like, you could easily go 7-0. Guys, that is dominating feat. That's a dominating feat for you to do. Anyway. All right, last one, then we're going to get a break, and then we're going to talk some football here. Chance Badman says, Blake, beyond the Big 5 pitchers, who do you trust out of the pen? I don't trust anybody outside of your Big 5. I do think that Connor Ware could be a guy for you. Connor Benj. I mean, the only one that I really would trust who seems to consistently get outs for you would be Maverick Rizzi, right? Like, I mean, Rizzi's come in a lot of situations. He's had some walks, but he's gotten out of these innings, whether it be the midweek or if it is on the weekends. I don't trust anybody outside of those 5. Here's what I'd say, though. You have an elite guy, but I do believe that will be an elite guy like William Schmidt, because Cade Anderson struggled with the same things that William Schmidt's dealing with right now. And look at Cade Anderson. I think that Jacob Myers needs to come back another year, and I think that he needs to work on his fundamentals. I think that he's got too electric of stuff to not be throwing strikes consistently. All right, last one. I lied. Bo Porter says, any news on Gavin Guidry? Guys, I'll keep, and Bo, this is not directed towards you. It's just I saw your comment in there. Guys, I'm going to keep saying this. I don't know if he returns. I don't. Like Jay said today, that redshirting is not on the table at the current moment, that we'll see, and we want him back. Because even if he comes back, are you really – let me ask y'all. I'll just ask you guys this. Are you going to bring him back and you're going to throw him to the wolves in the SEC. I don't see it, man. I don't see it. I just don't. I don't think that's logical. So we'll see what happens with Gavin Guidry. All right, let me get to a quick break. But before that, let's talk about our good friends over at Service Hawk Digital Media, Service Hawk Digital Marketing. Guys, do you need the right leads with smart systems and real growth? Do you run an HVAC business, an electrical business, or a generator business? Are you one of those generator pros that are out there? Get a marketing system that works today. Guys, I have been in the digital media space for quite some time there. There's nobody better that will generate those referrals and leads for you better than ServiceHawk Digital Media. Go over to servicehawk.io today. That's servicehawk.io. Get all those leads. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, talk some LSU football next. Stay with us. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Foss and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Foss has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. All right. So LSU announced this past week their plans on what they're going to do for the spring game. Listen. Well, let me just say what they announced. So LSU announced that they'll be going through individual drills to start off, and that they'll have a first half scrimmage will have two 15-minute quarters in it and then a halftime. And then the second half is to be determined on how that scrimmage is going to be formatted. That kind of feels like a spring game to me. That feels like a general, just every year type of spring game for me. Guys, I think that this team needs it. I think that this LSU football team needs for you and for them to go out there and scrimmage and compete and go against one another. If there's somebody, if Garrett Nussmeier does not play in a spring game, who gives a Rudy Poo? Don't put him out there. What I would say is I am glad, and I actually like that Brian Kelly is allowing for this to take place and for this to happen. Guys, listen, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole again. I don't think that we should go down this rabbit hole again. But what I will say is this. I need to see a team and continue to see a team, and I want the ability and opportunity to see a team that has not been together long. Guys, you brought in a lot of pieces from the transfer portal. Barry and Brown, Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton, Sadir Mitchell, Mansour Delane, Tamarcus Coley, Josh Thompson. You name it, LSU has brought in a lot of pieces that might be and probably will be key contributors for you this upcoming fall. And listen, I do not believe that you're done in the transfer portal either. When the portal opens, I do think LSU will at least entertain the idea of making specific moves. Because you got a lot of question marks for me that I want to try to get answered, some of them, before August. Not going to be negative. Not going to do it. But every rep for me counts. Now, I was called a clown this weekend for suggesting that every rep matters. For everybody that says that spring camp and spring evaluations don't matter. Well, we fundamentally disagree on that. Where we fundamentally do agree is that it's not the end-all, be-all. So, as of right now, I do want to see more of this edge. So, there are some things that I am looking forward to seeing in this spring game and in this overall period. Number one, guys, the edge players for LSU this spring have absolutely dominated. They, whether it be Jack Pyburn, whether it be Patrick Payton, or whether it be Gabe Rutherford, who, quite frankly, has been the biggest riser this spring for not just me, but I think everybody. I want to continue to see them dominate, and I want to see them in a scrimmage format with 15-minute quarters, which you're going to get this spring, and see what they can do against these new tackles that you have. Guys, Emory Jones and Will Campbell are no longer here. You can get answers on what the reps look like from Patrick Payton, Gabe Rutherford, and Jack Pyburn. That unit, and I've said this, and listen, I have been a proponent for using the semantics game of not using specific words. I do think that and I've said this to even before spring even started, I said this. I think that you borderline can be elite at edge. I fundamentally believe that. I still think that you're doing so much better at corner. Like, guys, there have been periods and there have been situations where your corners, not DB room overall, but the corner position is absolutely dominated. Guys, if they end spring and before we get to fall, if we get the end of spring and we go through another game, vanilla, even when this defense is going to be vanilla, boy, that's going to be a great feat. I would be interested to see just what happens, because I do think this defense will be vanilla. They'll go man coverage, they'll go quarters, they'll go cover two. There's nothing special that you will see from this team in a spring scrimmage. But if you go man on man and this defense continues to do what they're doing and you're playing base and you look good, and as you've been looking good so far this spring with, by the way, Whit Weeks in, Harold Perkins out, just how good can this team be defensively? It would definitely spark the conversation of this. Has LSU finally found consistency defensively? Now, I do still think that there are things that you need to do. I would go after a defensive tackle. I'd even look at another safety. But guys like Sadir Mitchell have had big camps and big springs too. So however you grade your own spring success in spring portal period, well, that's what I want to see. Need to see more safety play, and I need to see how you run the football against a team that will be vanilla. So that would be my overall assumption. All right. Let me get to this super chat before we get out of here, because I got to roll right before 6. But Jamie Post out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, sends a $5 super chat. Says, I'm driving from out of town for the autograph session. What time should I arrive at the stadium? Sees there's only 30 minutes for autograph scoop. Jamie, this is what I'd say. It looked, per the release of LSU, it looks like it would happen after the end of the spring game. So I think if you just make it before the end of the scrimmage or at the end of the practice, then you should be able to do that. I'm glad that LSU is doing that, though. Makes people to show up and for it to be a very fun environment. And listen, there will be a lot of recruits there as well. Thank you for the super chat. But I would just say, if you get there around game time, around 10 a.m., you watch the game, and then after, I think that you'll be fine. I do think that you'll be fine. All right. Guys, I hate to cut this one short, but we do have to get out of here. We'll let you know about what tomorrow looks like in reference to a show. We might do a post game. We might go before. We'll see. Until then, we'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a good night. Peace.